Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you'll have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Hey Vet Rehabbers! In this Behind the Vet Rehab Practice episode, I sit down with João Alves, who graduated from the University of Lisbon in 2012 and has since been working with the Portuguese police force, where he focuses on helping police working dogs reach their full physical potential through rehab and sports medicine. Now, João shares with us what it's like working within the police force and how it's given him a unique opportunity to combine hands-on clinical work with his deep passion for research. He has completed his PhD at the University of Evora, exploring intra-articular management modalities for osteoarthritis, and in 2022 he became a European specialist in canine sports medicine and rehabilitation. We also chat about his ongoing research interests, from osteoarthritis and photobiomodulation therapy to canine exercise physiology, and how he balances clinical work, publishing papers, and international lecturing. So if you've ever been curious about working dog rehab and how to combine clinical practice with academic research, this episode is for you. If you're looking to update your continuing education, we've got 3 flexible ways that you can learn with us at Onlinepethealth. You can either join for free and sign up for a webinar of your choice and attend the session live at the scheduled time. Purchase webinar access. That's if you can't attend live, you can buy access and enjoy the webinar recording for 4 weeks at your convenience. Or you can become a member and choose from our different membership levels to unlock full access to all live webinars, as well as the library of over 500 recorded webinar sessions, as well as business basics training and regular research updates. Before we head over to my chat with João, a quick word from our sponsors. At Paw Prosper, we believe true pet well-being demands a 3-pronged approach: prevention, support, and rehabilitation. Our brands are trusted by veterinarians, universities, and rehab facilities alike. So whether you are looking to train, rehabilitate, or help your patients age gracefully, our brands, Walking Pets, Help Them Up, Response System, Fit Paws, Muffins Halo, Sleepy Pod, and Canine Carts offer effective, innovative, and proven solutions. You can sign up today to receive a one-time special gift for all our podcast listeners with your next order, and all you need to do is go to pawprosper.com/OPH. Right, over to my chat with João. Hey João, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey Megan, thank you for having me. It's a really great pleasure to be able to join you. After so many years being a listener to the podcast, it's a real pleasure to have this opportunity to join you in the podcast and to chat with you today.
Oh, I'm so excited to dive into what you do. And one of the things we were chatting earlier, you actually won't believe it, but João is a cop, guys. He's actually a policeman. He doesn't go on patrols and things, but we're going to be chatting more about that now. Won't you tell the listeners how you got into the field of vet rehab, and then we're going to dive into your journey in vet rehab.
Yeah, so I went to the university in 2005, and what was different from my background was that I went through the police force. So when I went, we went through a military academy for our degree, but then we would go to the university to have our classes and to get the veterinarian degree. So when I started studying to be a vet, I was already a part of the police force. And when I finished, at the time I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. I like surgery, I still like it today. And I like surgery and I like to take pain away. So one of my favorite things, and I still do surgery today, simple things, but I like to do a broad spectrum of analgesia techniques. So I like to keep my patients comfortable. At the time, I was already aware that police dogs And for background, our police force has around 300 dogs uh, doing different types of work throughout our country in Portugal. And I was already aware that these dogs would require or benefit from rehab. So in 2012, for example, when I graduated, in one of the biggest conferences we have here in Portugal, we had a whole stream of lectures done by Daryl Millis from Tennessee. So I attended those. I thought it was perfect, and I saw them as a perfect fit for our dogs. But it was only in 2014 when I had the opportunity to go through the handlers course, the same course that our handlers go through, and learn more about the dogs, the type of work they do, how they learn, how you motivate a dog, how you keep it and keep it healthy. That I became acutely aware of the specific needs of the police dog. And that was the moment where I started looking for better approaches. And it's not just rehab. We need to think for these dogs on environmental enrichment to help upbring puppies, to train dogs, how to physical condition them. So it was a really awakening for me. This combined with my master's dissertation that I did at the time, it was on physical conditioning and physical testing in dogs. So that was my very first study, and I got a taste for it. And ever since, things started to grow. So I started doing more studies and research, going to different training sessions and courses to learn more about rehab. And we conducted a lot of studies with our dogs because we have almost a perfect population for this. It's a narrow set of breeds. The conditions are controlled. They are housed in similar conditions. They are fed the same. They have a similar background in terms of exercise. And we had some problems we needed to manage. So pretty much all studies that we have done since are ways that we looked at to solve the problems that we see in our dogs. And I started looking at different approaches, for example, for osteoarthritis. And I tipped my toe in intra-articular treatments, in mesotherapy, things like that. We also tried to look at better ways to feed the dogs, use some environmental enrichment techniques. I became a huge fan of lasers. So I use lasers for pretty much everything from diarrhea to teeth cleaning, wounds, pretty much, and all the rehab procedures. And that was the guideline that drove me to through my PhD work as well. My PhD was on intra-articular treatments for the management of osteoarthritis. And then I started the residency of the American College of Veterinary Sports Medicine and Rehabilitation, which I was really not able to conclude because COVID hit meanwhile. So there was a lot of things blocking you from traveling, for example. But the European college then started the European college is a little bit younger than the American one, and I was able to become a member of the European College of Veterinary Sports Medicine. And that's pretty much the work I still do today, every day, which is a great pleasure for me. I love police working dogs. I think they are great. They serve a great role in society. And it's a really great pleasure still today to go to work. And I don't think I don't recall a day where I woke up and thought, man, would really not like to go to work today.
That's so awesome. I have exactly the same thing. I love what I do. But it's amazing just to have that feeling where work is actually just life and just you enjoying
Yeah,
it.
it's really cool.
Yeah. So what was the initial attraction to the police force? So you said that you were actually part of the police force before you finished your
Yeah.
veterinary.
So what happens was when I went into school to fifth grade, I went into a military school. So I was already attracted to the whole idea, the set of values, the background and things like that. So naturally, when I thought of applying to the university, I thought of going through the police academy. Sorry, the military academy. And so I applied, and when we go in, we have our first year is it's an internal year, so you have a lot of training in military subjects and classes and things like that. It's only in our second year that we go to the university. So that's how it all went through, and I'm really happy with my choices because I don't think it's funny to think how things come to happen, because I don't think I would have this opportunity to work with working dogs and sporting dogs, or such a good opportunity, if I had followed another path. For example, going to the university, because I also applied to the university, not going through the military academy, and I was accepted, so I had the choice. But sometimes I stop to think that my path would probably be very different if I had gone another way.
Yeah. And what does your day-to-day look like? So just run through like what your week is and each day what you do.
We don't have a very rigid set of days, but usually what we like to do is we come in the morning, and we have pretty much the majority of our treatments in the morning. Because, as I was saying, we care for the needs of these dogs. Pretty much like 97 to 98% of the needs of the dog. So we will do anything a normal dog needs to be taken care of, like teeth cleaning if they have diarrhea, things like that. But we also need to conduct treatments, do surveys, follow-ups with our handlers throughout the country, because that's the tricky part. We have, for the dogs that are stationed here around Lisbon, where I'm staying, we have around 120 dogs here. So those dogs will come in for treatment, for management, for training, rehab, and things like that. And then you also have to follow up with the dogs that are stationed throughout the country. And the system that we have in place is that at least twice a year, a vet will go through the entire country, go through the places where the dogs are stationed, and we will conduct normal prophylaxis. That's like the excuse to go out. But what we do on those moments is we examine all dogs. We will check for problems, for orthopedic conditions, for muscle wastes, for dogs that are not performing as well, the dogs that would need some teeth cleaning, standard stuff, and more advanced things. And those dogs will be scheduled to come to our practice in Lisbon. And that's where we conduct all the care. And that's something we do it ourselves. So we don't have a big staff. So I'll conduct most of the follow-ups and the tracking of the dogs and the scheduling and things like that.
So all the dogs are actually staying at their handlers who are policemen's houses. So you don't have any cages or kennels or anything there where you are.
We have both. So all dogs will have a kennel, but the handlers have the opportunity to take the dogs home if they are able to, and if they are willing to. And I must say it's a preferable approach, because they go home with the handler, the dog is able to, it's a part of the family pretty much. It's better for them, they have more time with the dog rests better, it's easier. But we also have dogs that are kennelled. And for those, we have to take a great deal of care, because it's pretty much for all dogs, but particularly for those that are kennelled, because we have to take care of the housing, the environmental enrichment. We take a great deal of work in terms of finding ways to keep the dogs busy in the kennel, because these are really high drive dogs, and you cannot expect them to be able to work for long periods and always be willing to do things, and then to go to the kennel and do nothing. That doesn't
Yeah.
happen. And it's a funny mix, because you do a lot of individualized work with every specific dog and every specific handler, but we also do a little bit of population medicine, like you would do in cattle, because you have to manage the new dogs that come in that have to go through quarantine. You have to manage parasites and things like that. So it's an interesting mix that we have to manage with our
And
dogs.
the handlers, I mean, do they go through some course, about like dogs and health and things like that? I mean, are you having to do a lot of handler education, or is their knowledge at quite a high level, like above the average pet owner?
It's a little bit above. So every handler has to go a certification course. I was able to do that course myself, and that was the really eye-opener for me. At the time, it was a 5-month course, so it's pretty broad where they learn about training, dog psychology, how do they train, how to manage the animal, a lot of things depending on the type of work they do. So, but it's quite challenging. And during that course, they will have a full class on veterinary care. They will learn about a little bit the basis of anatomy, detecting early disease signs, managing food intake, exercise, and things like that. But when they go into the police force, when they start actively working with the dogs, from time to time, they also have classes with us. So they have a rotating schedule, and we will run classes on feeding, welfare, exercise, things like that. The dog unit will ask us for specific areas and subjects, and we will run classes for them from time to time.
Are you also doing surgery? So, like, let's say a dog is hurt in the field, let's say it's chasing someone or whatever, ruptures a cruciate. Does that come to you to do, or do you have
Yeah, it
other?
comes to us. Usually, I must say we don't have that many traumatic injuries. I don't see that many cruciate injuries, which is maybe surprising. We don't have that many of them. We do your normal set of surgery, like soft tissue surgery. The main one that we would do from time to time would be GDV surgeries because we had predisposed breeds, and that was a really big issue for us. But we got to a point where we had a really high success rate. But at this point, we started doing elective gastropexies for many dogs. For example, if you were to open a dog up for any given reason, if you're doing a spay, for example, if you're correcting a hernia and things like that, we are now doing elective gastropexies for those dogs, and it has worked quite well. We were at a point where we had maybe 13 cases of GDV a year, and now we have none. So things are working, which is good.
And are you the only vet, or are there other vets
No,
there?
actually, we have, it's not a huge team. We have 3 vets on the team, and we have 2 technicians. Uh, we have things a little bit separated in terms of areas where we're working. So I'm doing most of the rehab work, and then we have another colleague that is doing most of the behavioral and environmental enrichment work. And then we have the boss, which is managing the practice and do a lot of the general work that needs to be done.
Okay.
The technicians work with all of us. Uh, for the future, I would like to have more technicians, and preferably, I would like to have a couple just dedicated to the rehab part of things, so that we could grow this part of the work that we do.
From a rehab perspective, what are the kind of cases that you're treating? So, what are you seeing mainly?
Well, we have a lot of cases of animals that come in for chronic problems. For example, osteoarthritis is one of the main things that we need to manage. Uh, we don't have a lot of acute injuries that we have, um, which is nice because most of the work that our dogs do, fortunately, is pretty much controlled work. And that's the type of issues that we get is also depending on the type of work that the dog does. And this is easy to understand. For example, if you have a drug detection dog, the intensity of the work is pretty much quite low because you do a lot of pre-prepared conditions. The dog will go through a line of people, a house, a bunch of cars, things like that. So for those dogs, most of our work would be having the dog in proper condition to work for longer periods of time. So that means usually mostly physical conditioning and make sure that the dog doesn't have a chronic issue like osteoarthritis conditioning the dog's work, or if they do a sudden jump, things like that, they don't get hurt and they are able to balance themselves throughout the work. This is very different from a search and rescue dog, for example, where they have to run around for long periods, and it can be on an open field, it can be on a hill or a mountain, it can be on snow, it can be on rubble. It's quite different, and that's also different from a patrol dog that needs to be able to jump, to bite, to do sharp turns and things like that. Those are the dogs that have more acute injuries. And there you see a lot of injuries on the digits, for example, back conditions. You have, for example, particularly in the Malinois, a lot of degenerative myelopathy, lumbosacral stenosis, osteoarthritis as well. We have some cruciate injuries from time to time. We had some traumatic luxations of the patella, and you'll have elbow osteoarthritis and shoulder conditions, biceps tendinopathies, and things like that. So it really depends on the type of work that the dog does. It depends on the dog itself, on the temperament and the personality of the dog, and where they are stationed throughout the country. Because a dog in Lisbon or in Oporto, the big cities, will have different types of work and intensities of work than a dog that is stationed in the middle of the countryside.
Oh, it's interesting, hey? And then you're doing obviously a lot of research, and I can hear that that's a big passion of yours. And yeah, it's so awesome to be able to do that. Who controls all of that? Like, who decides? Is it, and all three of the vets, are all of you doing the research, or is that mainly your thing?
Well, we have some degree of freedom to do it. I would say I'm the main driver of the process, but we work as a team in conducting the studies. Um, I really got into doing the studies when I was doing my master's dissertation, and I was really fortunate because my supervisor incentivized me to run a paper on the study that we did. We ran physical conditioning tests in dogs. And I was fortunate enough that the work was easy enough to get published. So it was a nice but simple study that went through. We had some nice reviews. That isn't always the case, and the reviews were nice, and the paper came out, and I liked the process, and it became a working process for me. So most of the papers that we have published are just ways that we found to solve our problems. So we would find a problem with our dogs. For example, our dogs, due to exercise and sometimes from stress, they will have diarrhea. So we found the problem. We studied the matter. We tried to find solutions. For example, we started using laser or fiber like psyllium husk to manage the dogs. And we did a test to see if it worked or not. And then afterwards, we tried to get everything published. The reviewers knock on your work, you learn a little bit more, and then you get or not a paper published. So it's a whole process. And if it worked, we would incorporate that into our practice. If not, we need to find a better solution. So it's a
Yeah.
whole process. And I became quite a fond of it. It's a good way of learning and getting your research out there and learning new things about your dogs and better ways to care of the dogs.
What are the things that you're busy with at the moment? What studies?
So we are running a couple of studies. I'm obviously a big fan of joint injections and intra-articular treatments for osteoarthritis. So we are now finishing a big crossover study where we compared uh, intra-articular PRP to laser and the combination of the two. We did a big crossover study that is now in the last couple of months, and we hope to get that published soon. And I'm also a big fan of lasers, so we have been using lasers for pretty much anything with our dogs. We already used it to manage diarrhea. We
How do you
use
do
it.
that?
It's
Explain a bit
fairly
more.
simple. Our dogs have usually have a specific type of diarrhea. This is usually exercise related. So I think pretty much all of us can relate to this. If you have ever gone through a run, when you run, you from time to time will feel the need to go to the bathroom. So we know that movement stimulates the bowel, and that can happen with dogs as well. If you have a dog running or exercising, and even if you have a sudden spike in stress, that can lead to diarrhea episodes. And we found that that protocol that we are using, we have I know, can I plug the brand? Is that a problem? We have a
No.
okay, we have a companion laser, and we bought it mainly for rehab. But then the menu has so many possibilities in terms of conditions that you can manage that I saw an option for abdominal conditions. And I thought, maybe I can try this. And we did. It's fairly simple. It's a long protocol in terms of time it takes. It takes, depending on the dog, 6 to 8 minutes. And we treat the entire abdomen. But the dogs like it a lot. They usually fall asleep when you're massaging the belly and going through the process. And the difference are so dramatic because we would have dogs come in, they would just have the diarrhea discharge just before the treatment, and then you would go through it with the laser, and the next time they would go out for the bathroom, they would have normal stools, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you said you were using psyllium husk as well in one of
Yeah,
your.
we use it not so much at the time because that was the first approach that we tried to use to manage diarrhea in these dogs, and it works. The problem is it becomes more expensive because you have to get a certain level of psyllium, and that's something we need to buy. It's not a part of the medication that we have on hand. And the good part of my work is that I don't charge my patients. So
Mm.
it's the main issue that I have is convincing my bosses that I need a new device. But
Yeah,
once I have it, I can use it as many times as I want. So it
yeah,
becomes easier in terms of management, also to use the laser because I have it on hand.
yeah. I must say it's a great way to practice where you're not restricted with finances and your time. Like if you think about when you're in practice, you can do what the owner can afford, right?
Yeah, it is.
Working how you do is just such a great way because you've got time, you can work what you want to do and what you think is right for the patient, not because there's a restriction financially.
Yeah, we still have financial restrictions. I'm acutely aware that it's a great privilege to be able to work like this, but it can become frustrating from time to time if you really think a dog would benefit from a certain approach or a different medication or a new set of equipment. It's really, really hard to get a new thing in
Okay.
because Portugal is not a rich country, so uh, it's not really that easy to get a new piece of equipment. For example, I was asking for a laser for I don't know how many years before we got one. But
Yeah.
once we have it, okay, then I can work with it all the time. And that's the good part once you get to that point.
Yeah. So what's next on the list? What are you trying to get from your boss? What's your next piece of equipment?
Well, what we really would like to have would be a new physical practice because
Okay.
we are working in really old conditions. We don't have a lot of space, so it's really hard to have everything neatly set up and prepared to receive as many dogs as we can. So the current challenge is to get a new practice.
Okay. And do you have like underwater treadmills and hydrotherapy?
We don't have the space for it because we are working in precarious conditions, and to have it, we would require a dedicated space and maintenance. That's always the problem, but that's on the horizon, but we don't have it at the time, no.
Okay. And you are also, I believe, going to be lecturing at a conference coming up. When is that conference happening?
Yeah, well, the main one that we have on the line here is the scientific meeting of the European College of Veterinary Sports Medicine and Rehabilitation. That is going to take place in the fall in Turin, Italy. And I'm really excited about that because we are going to run the first mesotherapy workshop, a hands-on workshop. And I think it's going to be great to have that technique out there.
I've heard of the term mesotherapy, but explain a little bit more for the listeners exactly what it
Okay,
is.
It's a really simple technique that I saw it being used in humans and in horses as well. What the technique encompasses is that you apply medication, you inject medication onto the skin. You create a small deposit on the skin over the painful area that you're wanting to treat. So for example, if you would going to treat an elbow for osteoarthritis or something like that, you would inject medication over the anatomical area of the elbow. And from that deposit that you create on the skin, the medication then goes to the underlying tissues. And what we know from the human studies is that the medication reaches faster the underlying tissues without the systemic exposure of other routes like sub-Q or an oral or an intravenous administration, and it stays on the tissue for longer. So you're able to use less medication, it takes less time to reach the target tissue, and it stays on the target tissue for longer.
And what type of medications are you talking about? Give an
So
example.
the standard protocol that we use will have lidocaine. It also have an NSAID. You can use different types of NSAIDs, but usually what we use is piroxicam because it was the one that was used on the human studies, but you can use meloxicam or other NSAIDs. And we use a muscle relaxant. The one that we use is thiocol which I think is not available in a lot of countries, but these are the ones that we use the most.
Okay, interesting. And there's no obviously problem with you hold like how are you actually injecting as if that muscle relaxant gets absorbed into your skin or anything? Is that a problem?
No, it's really simple. So we used specific needles, which are mesotherapy needles, which are really thin and short. I think they are 27 or 30 G needles with 4 millimeters. So they are really short, and you just inject on the skin. The worst side effect that I've gotten was a small rash on the injection site. And we are injecting really small volumes, like 0.1 milliliters. So
Okay.
it's fairly easy. It's well tolerated by the animals. And since you don't have the systemic absorption, even if you have a dog that has kidney issues, or if the dog or the cat is intolerant to an NSAID and would vomit, if you use it for mesotherapy, you don't have those issues, which is really cool.
And then how often would you have to treat those patients?
Usually we follow the algorithm that the Italian Mesotherapy Society has proposed. So what we do is when the dog comes in, or sorry, I say dog all the time because I work mainly with dogs, but you can
Yeah.
do this with cats as well. Uh, the animal would come in and you would do one session a week for 4 weeks. And after the 4 weeks, if the animal is significantly better, and you should use a pain scale or something like that, if the animal is at least 50% better, you can then go to one session every couple of weeks. And after 3 sessions, if usually the animal is well enough for you to discharge them and then go to a completely individualized protocol. Some dogs will come in once a month, some of them will still need to come every couple of weeks. It really depends on the animal, the condition, the type of work or lifestyle that they have. It's pretty much an individualized approach.
And I'm guessing you have to shave them.
No,
To,
you don't. When I first started, I was doing that because the equine practitioners do that. Particularly if you're treating the back, I would shave them, I would clip the hair. But particularly dog handlers frown upon that idea, and I became not to like it as much because I don't like to send a dog to work with an obvious sign of a fragility. Okay, so
hmm.
I don't, and to have a dog with the entire hair of the back clipped is not appealing. So what we do is we thoroughly rinse the hair with the disinfectant solution, and then I will spread the hair of the dog until you get a clear line with the skin, and I just follow the line. And then I will do another line, and since the hair is wet, you can do that quite easily.
You were chatting about all the different types of dogs that you're treating, like the patrol dogs and the drug testing dogs and all of those dog smelling dogs. What is the main thing that stops a dog from being able to work, that you found?
It really depends. The From the physical point of view, I would say for our dogs is osteoarthritis. That's why it's one of my main interests, and it became one of my main interests because when I arrived our practice, we only had one vet, so I was shortly we became free. So it was really hard for that one vet to care of all of the dogs, and the solutions that he had at the time were not good enough for the dogs. So he would prescribe NSAIDs and things like that, and that was not enough. So I became interested in finding better ways to solve this problem, and that's why I became more interested in rehab and mesotherapy and joint injections and things like that.
Yeah.
So from the physical point of view, the main problem that we have would be osteoarthritis.
Yeah. And those people that have got the dogs, the handlers that have got the dogs at home, let's say, they take their dog home every night. When the dog has to eventually give up working, do they get to keep the dog
Yeah,
as
they
they?
do. Yeah, they do. That's the preferable way.
Yeah.
Usually what we like is the dog to go home with the handler. It's the best way. They are used to the handler. They are usually used to their family as well. The transition is quite mild. It's easy to perform. And if they are not able to keep them, the handler is usually the best person to find someone that would be able to care for the dog. And usually what they also keep in touch with the dog and the new family. It's always nice when they get, from time to time, they will come in and say, oh, here's a picture of so and so at his new place. And it's always quite rewarding to have those dogs after so many years of service to enjoy their retirement with a family and go on hikes to the countryside, to the pool, to the beach. It's really cool.
Yeah. And it must be quite nice for you to build relationships with those patients that you've got because you're seeing a lot of them all the time. And it's similar to us, obviously, if you're in private practice, but it's so specific that you know the handler, you know the patients, and you go through quite a long journey with them.
Yeah, it is. Really get to know the handlers and the dogs as well. Um, and it was really nice because when I arrived to the police force, there was a specific. We buy dogs from time to time, so they will come in batches. And there was a specific generation of dogs that came in at the same time that I came into the police force, and have now retired. But I like pretty much all dogs, but those were the ones they meant a lot for me because they were always there when they arrived at the same time. They were always there. We did a lot of work. I learned a lot with those dogs,
Yeah.
and seeing them go through retirement was also nice. But it leaves you with a certain sense of nostalgia once
Yeah.
they leave. But yeah, you really get to know the dogs, the temperament, the personalities, the handlers. Uh, we really get to develop a really good relationship.
Yeah. So what's the one thing that you love the most about your job?
It's hard to say. I really like the dogs. That's the best part. Uh, because working dogs are really special animals. They have such a high drive, they are so stoic. And the main challenge that we find from time to time is to interpret the complaints that the dog is showing, because these dogs will not complain. You'll see, for
Mm.
example, the dogs sitting and they're crooked, or they're a little bit slower, or they don't want to jump or something like that, and there's a problem there. But it's hard it can be quite challenging to understand what's the issue, because you'll twist and turn and poke the dogs and they will show you nothing. They will smile and look at you and ask for pets and to be petted and things like that. So
And they've been
that
trained to do that, right? They
no,
trained to be like,
not really. It's just part of their way. They just like to work and to interact with the handler. So
yeah,
and this is also a problem when we are trying to educate the handler, because this I'll show them, do you see that your dog is crooked when they lie down? And say, yeah, that's okay, but he doesn't complain. So you need to, yeah, that's true, but you need to understand what the dog is showing. So that's quite challenging. And I don't think it's something they are trained to do. They just do it. They like to interact with the handler. They like to play. They like to chase their ball. And I usually tell the handlers, if I, if the dog has a leg broken, if you toss them a ball, they will chase it, but the leg
Yeah.
is broken.
Yeah. That's amazing. Oh, it's been so lovely chatting to you and hearing about your journey and what you're doing. And I really do hope that you get that rehab facility, that new facility very soon. And so I'll be holding thumbs for you. For those people that are interested in that mesotherapy workshop, where can they find out more information?
Okay, you can go to the conference website. It's really simple. It's the college acronym, so it's ecvsmr2025.org. So it's fine. It's easy enough to find, and you can also go through the college website. So just spell
Yeah.
out the name of the college and you'll find it.
And is it a 2-day conference? So
No,
there's
it's a
a
3-day conference. So we have workshops on one day, and then we have lectures for 2 days.
Awesome. Awesome. João, it's been so lovely chatting to you. Thanks so much for sharing your journey.
Now, thank you, Megan. Thank you for having me and for having this opportunity to be on the podcast. It was a really great pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Paw Prosper. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free, so please go and check them out at pawprosper.com. Don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit on Saturday, the 8th of November, 2025. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Online Pet Health members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.